everyone, Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Today we're going to have the second installment of my Recommend Me a Knife series. This time we're going to be focusing on hard use, sort of tactical, heavy duty type of stuff, the kind of thing you want in your pocket if you get yourself into a bad situation or you really need to rely on your knife. Now, I've got a fixed blade here because there's one obvious thing that we need to point out here, okay? This video is going to focus on folders, but if you're going into a situation where you know you're going to be really putting some use and some wear and tear on your knife, of course, bring a fixed blade. The Cold Steel Master Hunter is one of my favorites, one I can easily recommend along those lines. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because it's not a fixed blade video, but just wanted to put that out there. Next thing, I will add all of the knives in this video to my Amazon store so that there's just one link. You can click there and then you'll find all the knives, at least all the knives that are available on Amazon. Not all of them are, okay? In addition to that, I will put a link to White Mountain Knives in the description box. And then finally, over on my Facebook page, the Sharp Stuff Facebook page, I will list all of these knives as well as another link to DLT Trading, which is a great place, but they have specifically asked that I don't link to them alongside others. So we'll do that in a separate location over on Facebook. So that's how that whole thing is going to work in terms of promoting and finding all of these knives and where you can do that. So that's how we're going to handle that. Finally, a couple of qualifications that I want to make here, and that is the knives on this list are going to be only knives with washers, no bearings, ball bearings, that is. And finally, these are all knives that will cut stuff. So if you're looking for a list of sharpened pry bars that, you couldn't cut an apple with to save your life, you're not going to find that here. All of the knives that I've included are knives that I find still do a good job of cutting, even though they're really tough, highly confidence inspiring knives. Okay, so let's get this guy out of the way. Of course, it serves as a good introduction because there will be a lot of cold steel knives on this list, including the very first one that I want to bring in here. This, of course, is the very well-known Cold Steel Recon 1. I have a great connection with the Recon 1. It's a fantastic knife. It's not overly expensive. It's really well put together. And honestly, guys, this is one of the knives that got me into knives. I saw on a Discovery Channel show, they were talking about what tools and weapons different people carry, and the Navy SEAL that was on the show had a Cold Steel Recon 1. I don't even know how they came up with that, but that when I was just a young kid, I was probably 14 or 15, maybe a little older, maybe in my early 20s watching that, and that really impressed me. So the Cold Steel Recon 1 is a great option because it cuts really well. It's tough, it's ergonomic, and it doesn't cost a lot. Like compared to some of the knives that are out there that get marketed as hard use, heavy duty, or tactical, the Recon 1 is often quite a bit less. Now this happens to be not White Mountain Knives. This happens to be the Warriors and Wonders exclusive in satin, and I really like this one. But there's lots of Recon 1s out there. And always a great blade at a very reasonable price point. So that's an easy recommend for this list. The next knife has actually been one that has stolen quite a bit of pocket time from the Recon 1. This is the Cold Steel 8010. Now this is new for 2019. This is my favorite thing that Cold Steel has ever done. I love this knife. It is so comfortable in hand. It cuts so well. It's tough. It's just... Anyway, I cannot say enough about this knife. Now, I will say this. I'm a little disappointed that they switched to a flat grind. I actually contacted Cold Steel about this. They said, look, it was Andrew Demko's idea. He wanted to switch it because he felt like that would make the knife tougher. And I'm sure that it does, but I don't think it was a worthwhile trade-off. This knife cuts so well with a hollow grind that it's just phenomenal, and that's one of the things that really makes this so perfect. But these days, if you go and buy a brand new one, it's going to have a flat grind unless you can find a used one on the secondary with a hollow grind. Nonetheless, I love this knife. Now, it does cost significantly more than the Recon 1. That doesn't, I'm still going to recommend it. I still enjoy it. It's one of the nicest Cold Steel knives out there, especially in their folders. And so this one gets the nod. Okay, so couple of cold steels. Let's take a break from cold steel and bring in a zero tolerance. Now, I've switched the orientation on my tablet for this video because a couple of you wanted to be surprised and you said, Kevin, we can see all the links up above so we can see all the knives that are coming up. So I switched that so that now you won't be able to see them so easily. I don't think the picture will be quite as nice, but at least it'll still be a surprise when I switch to the next knife. But this one is going to be the Zero Tolerance 0630. This is an Emerson collaboration. This is one of the nicest, most well-rounded, well put together zero tolerances that has been out there. I love the blade on this. I love the implementation, the construction, everything else. It's just a great knife. You know, honestly, I would recommend this over pretty much any Emerson knife. Not that I dislike them, but this is great. And being discontinued, now it says discontinued down here. That means you'll be able to find these. MAP pricing doesn't apply to discontinued knives, so you can often find some pretty good sales on these. Let's switch to another zero tolerance that isn't discontinued, another Emerson design. This is the 0640. So we had the 0630, now the 0640. I have a full review of this knife. I really, really like it. The pocket clip is a bit of an issue. Let's see if I can find the pocket clip. So the pocket clip is a bit of an issue on this knife, but there's a very, very easy fix, and I talk about that in my full review. Again, a great knife that can really do a lot. It's well put together. It's a very confidence-inspiring blade. And again, being on washers means that you're not always worried about all the gunk and junk and stuff like that that can get into a knife. All right, let's move this guy out of the way for a second. We'll bring it back when we get to the next knife that we need it for. And the next knife that I want to recommend, I actually have here. So this is the Benchmade Crooked River from their hunting line. Now I have modified mine with some Rogue Blade Works scales and clip and pivot collar. So I like this one an awful lot. Now I have a carbon fiber backspacer, but I kind of like the blue. So I leave the blue in there just to give it a pop of color. Anyway, great knife, really well put together. And again, this is a great heavy duty type of folder. So we've got a nice flat ground S30V blade here. We've got a large handle, right? This is a knife that can really do a lot and take a lot of damage with that axis lock, which is a very, very strong lock. So I'm a huge fan of the Crooked River. Now it's not the only Benchmade on this list. I've got another one I want to bring up in a second here, but this one is again an easy recommend. And the smaller version would probably be a little more EDC friendly, but could easily be put on this list as well because the construction is essentially the same. Next knife I have, I was pretty surprised by. So this is the KnifeWorks exclusive Benchmade Contego. You can see they've got the blue and black layered G10. This is a beautiful knife. The blade steel is M390, but look at the price, $169.95. I paid a lot more than that when I first bought mine, and so this is a great deal. I can't believe I think KnifeWorks must sort of continually do new orders on these, and I hope that's what's happening here. This is a great knife, and this is a really good deal for it. 170 bucks. When you think about what you can get for 170 bucks, one, there are not that many Benchmades, and there are not that many knives that are going to be this well put together, this attractive, and in this steel. So for a high-end folder like this, I think this is a great deal. I'm almost tempted to stop this video and go buy one for myself, but I'll leave them for you guys. This is a great knife. It's an easy, easy, easy recommend. I do have a full video on this. I've done some comparisons with it. This is a knife that's been a long-standing part of this channel, and I really, really like the Benchmade Contego, especially in this configuration. Now there is the normal configuration with the black and the M4 steel, and some of you that's nothing to sneeze at all. Okay, still a great steel. That one has a glass breaker on the back, and I'm sort of I'm not a big fan of glass breakers on knives. I think there are much better options. Basically, buy a Rescue Me. They're 10 bucks and they work really, really well. I will make sure Rescue Me's are in the Amazon store as well. Obviously, this will not be in the Amazon store because it's a KnifeWorks exclusive, so you're going to have to go there and buy it. And man, I don't have any kind of deal with KnifeWorks, so I can't give you an affiliate link or anything like that. Maybe that's something I should work on. But that, again, Benchmade Contego is an easy, easy recommend for a hard use, sort of heavy duty style folder. Next on the list is going to be a Spyderco. Now there's not a lot of Spydercos, and probably you can guess which one it's going to be. This, of course, is the Spyderco Shaman. This one's from DLT. That was the first link that came up. Spyderco Shaman is a very, very nice knife. I enjoy it an awful lot. Not quite as much as the Contego, I will say, but really, really good. Slices well, great ergonomics, heavy duty. Yeah, good knife. If you want something that's a little more ready for anything, say than your average PM2 or something like that, then this is a good option. And I really, really enjoy it. All right, so let's get this guy out of the way again, and we'll bring in another knife that is well reputed in this vein. So here we have the Hinderer XM18. Yes, these are a little more expensive, but they really are built to be a tank knife. This knife had a lot to do with sort of the hard use knife trend that was really going on hot and heavy when I first got into knives. And these were going for like $700 or $800. It was insane. The price from Hinderer has never changed, but the secondary market on these, Hinderer just couldn't keep up with demand, and the secondary market was insane for these. I will say, guys, this one is pretty special. One, it's a slicer grind, beautiful ano on the handle, that nice bronze hardware. Really, really attractive knife overall. And notice the action on this one. It is fantastic. This is really, really good. In fact, that's how good it is. It will drop shut. And it's got that nice snappy deployment, which is not something we always see on a Hinderer. By the way, I haven't loosened that pivot off so that there's blade play. There's still no blade play on this. This one is just really, really dialed in. Okay, thanks to, I've adjusted a little bit and there's some KPL in that pivot, but this is not the newest gen of the XM18. So there's no bearings in here. There's no phosphor bronze. It's just good old washers in there, good old Teflon washers. I should, although I'd be afraid to mess up the action, there is a place you can get phosphor bronze washers for Hinderers. I'm trying to remember. If I can think of it, if I can find it again, I'll add the link here. But anyway, that's a nice option. And of course, the XM18 is so comfortable, and I like this as an EDC knife. It's definitely more heavy duty than most people need in an EDC, but I really enjoy it. So wanted to get that one in here. The next one is a similar knife, very popular, very well loved and well known. This is the Reeve knives in Cosi. This one is with the black micarta inlay. I love this knife. I love this version of this knife. And this again is an easy recommend. The nice thing about this is perhaps of all the knives on the list, this one is the most balanced. So it's not too heavy, it's not too big in pocket, it's still very tough and very capable. As tough and capable as just about anything that we have looked at here, but it carries very nicely. Like this is not a knife that asks you to, weigh yourself down and be, wearing 511s every day to carry it. This is, a fairly slim, unobtrusive folder, but yeah, this can do a lot of work. Really, really can. All right. There are some Medford knives out there. The Medford Slim MIDI, I'm going to just give an honorable mention to in passing before we move on to our next knife. Just kind of thought of that and wanted to throw it out there. Now, the next knife is going to be for those of you budget-minded folks out there. This is the Wrap Model 1. And no, this is not the heavy-dutiest, craziest, hard-use knife available on the market, but it's pretty well done. Sorry about that, the sun's kind of moving a little bit. But it is well done, and this is a knife that can take a lot, guys. It really is. I would consider easily this as a good outdoor survival style option. If I had a choice, would this be the only thing I would take? No, as I said, I would take a fixed blade if I knew I was going to need a knife for sort of heavy duty work. But if I had this in my pocket and found myself in the bush needing to, I don't know, skin an animal or do some light woodworking or prepare a shelter or something like that, I wouldn't be all that concerned. I'd be pretty happy that this was the knife I had with me over, lots of knives out there, over many of the knives that were on the previous list, the typical EDC style stuff. The other knife that I would add to this is the Raven 2, the Bird Raven 2. And there's another reason I put these on the list, okay? And that is because there's an element to hard use where we're a little worried about breaking it or damaging it, okay? And these are knives, the Rat and the Raven, where you're not going to have to worry about that really at all, right? It's just fine. Okay, so let's get this guy out of the way and we'll get back into our insane frenzy of cold steel knives. The next one on the list that I want to share with you is the Cold Steel Talwar. This is a knife that I've had a couple of versions of this. I think this one's from Smoky Mountain Knife Works. Again, just the first place that I happened to notice. This is a great knife. Okay, it looks a little scarier than some of the other knives on this list. I will grant that right away. Sort of that upswept tip on the blade, it just looks very tactical, whatever. But if you actually get one of these in your hand and start cutting stuff with it, it is a phenomenal utility tool. It really is. It's extremely comfortable in hand. It just feels like it was meant to be in a human hand. The blade profile, the grind, the belly, it works great. I mean, you could use this in a kitchen. It's that nice. Just fantastic. As I say, not for everybody and a little more aggressive looking than some of the knives we've had on the list. So I get that that's going to put some people off. But if you are in a situation where you can kind of carry whatever you want, certainly I'm in that situation. I live in a small town. Lots of people carry knives. We're a rural community. I went to pick up my kids from school the other day, and there were two guys standing there waiting for their kids that had knives on their belt. Okay, so that kind of tells you where I live, and boy, that's a great place to live. That tells you that you live in the right spot when two guys have knives on their belt when you go to pick up your kids. Anyway, I could easily get away with carrying a Talwar, and I would recommend doing so. I've got another cold steel here. This is the Cold Steel SR1, a little thicker grind. So this one, I actually went back and forth. I thought maybe I won't put it on the list, maybe I will. And ultimately, I decided to put it on the list because I will say of everything here, this is going to be one of the most heavy duty. It's insanely overbuilt. It really is. Comparable to the Formax, although for quite a bit less. The Formax, by the way, is coming up. I just haven't gotten to it yet. That'll be the knife that sort of closes it all off. But the SR1 is a good knife. It's just not as slicey. Okay, so you do sacrifice a bit of cutting ability on the SR1. It'll still cut, just not as nice as most everything else that's been on this list. Next knife I want to talk to you guys about. This is great. Look at 109.95 Cold Steel Ultimate Hunter. This is a great knife. Another win from Cold Steel. This could be a great EDC as well. It's extremely comfortable in hand. The blade is extremely well balanced. And as you can see, this is a Demco design. You can definitely catch the similarity between this and this, right? It's very, very evident, especially if you look at the handle there. The only difference is this one cost quite a bit less, and it's a great knife, highly recommended. Now, one of the things that I did to mine, I would recommend you go over and check out the Apostles video on this. Rob took a Dremel tool and just created a full choil there, and I did the same thing with mine, and I really, really liked that change. Definitely worthwhile to do. You do have to take the knife apart, so if you're not comfortable with that, that's something to think about. What I did was I kind of built a template based on the radius of the circle that was there, kind of finished the radius and put that in. And look, when you do it that way, you don't lose any cutting edge. When I finished mine anyway, it landed right about there. So the cutting edge was still preserved. There we go. Landed right about there. So the cutting edge was still preserved. So great knife. And especially, again, this is another one I didn't realize was this cheap. These were going for like 120, 140 initially. So for 110, this is a huge win. And if you don't have one of these, you owe it to yourself to get one. Finally, let's bring in the last but not least on this list, and probably the most closely identified with being a tank of a knife. This is the Cold Steel Formax, and this thing is an absolute beast, okay? It is beyond hard use. It is beyond overbuilt. There are certainly some fixed blades that would not take the kind of beating that this knife would take. All right, now I'm not suggesting this is a virtual fixed blade or any of that nonsense, But this is a crazily overbuilt folder. It really is. And I have to say, I enjoy it way more than I should. I take some kind of, just weird pleasure in this knife. It just makes me smile every time I pick it up. But yeah, this would be the closest thing to a fixed blade that you're going to be able to get your hands on. And again, this is an easy recommend for this category. Now remember, this is the hard use sort of tactical heavy duty category. We're not talking about the best EDC knife here. We're talking about the best hard use knife. And the knives that I've given you on this list, some of them would function well as an EDC knife. I carry most of these as EDCs. This one I would call an occasional carry, right? You've got to make some accommodation for it, but it is a great knife. Okay, so that's my list, guys. Don't forget to check out the links. I'd love to hear your recommendations. Is there something, notoriously grossly absent from this list that I've just completely missed? Go ahead and let me know about that as well. Check over at the Sharp Stuff Facebook page, and I will put this whole list there so that, if you just want like a hard copy of the list that you can read over, you can see it over on the Sharp Stuff Facebook page. And I'll put a DLT link, affiliate link, by the way, so that does help the channel if you use that link over there as well. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We will talk to you soon.